Hello and welcome to WTO Forum. It's estimated that every additional dollar invested in building trade capacity in developing countries yields 42 additional dollars in exports. Clearly, developing countries that lack trade capacity, be it adequate infrastructure, be it the know-how required to function in the system, or be it the productive capacity itself, countries lacking this sort of capacity need this investment if they are to participate fully in the global economy. So, how to address this? In 2005, ministers launched the Aid for Trade initiative. And since that initiative, launched at the Hong Kong Ministerial Conference, we've seen impressive numbers indeed. We've seen growth of 60% in commitments made by donors, and we now are at $40 billion. Those are big numbers, but the question is, do those numbers really translate into enhanced trade flows, into poverty alleviation, and into integrating developing countries into the global trading system? We're fortunate to have with us today two men who can answer these questions. Roger Hernández, the Vice Minister of Economy in El Salvador, and Peter Thompson, the Director of Development and Economic Partnership Agreements at the European Commission. Gentlemen, welcome. Mario, let's start with you. Your thoughts.
Well, thank you, Keith, for an invitation. It's a pleasure for me to be here today. And one of the things that you mentioned before, which is very important, the Aid for Trade initiative for all the countries, and especially for the middle and less developed countries, because the Aid for Trade is oriented to go to the strengthen the trade capacity buildings in our country, which is very important in order to take advantage of the free trade and the capacity to take advantage of the markets and make the trade possible to different sectors of our economies. One of the things that is important in our economies is that there are several sectors that need some kind of capacity to integrate to this global change and into the globalization. And in that sense, the Aid for Trade, it's very important to make the access to external markets and to strengthen the export sectors and the production sectors, which are very important in order to have the capacity to move your products in these global markets. But one of the things in this part, which is for me, it's very clear, it's that you have to build your trade capacity building in the human capital, but also in the institutions, which are, for me, it's very important, because the institutions are like a building, are the base and the foundation to build a very strong and solid trade relationship with other countries. So the capital, the institutional aspects are really important. This morning we were talking about the necessity of move, not just the software of the free trade, but also the hardware of the free trade, which is related with environment, infrastructure, and other aspects of the trade that are intimately related with the trade, with the global trade. In that sense, I guess the Aid for Trade is important, but we have to move forward to a more effectiveness Aid for Trade, a more focused Aid for Trade, and a special sector like women, small medium companies, and what are for me one of the objectives in terms of trade for the next years.
Peter, is Aid for Trade delivering?
Let's go back to my own angle on this, if I may. I'm responsible for the economic partnership agreements, and there what we're dealing with is groups of African, Caribbean or Pacific countries. In this morning's discussion that I was fortunate enough to be in a panel with Mario, we were talking about the Caribbean. Now there it's an agreement, 16 countries working together, big challenges to integrate into the world economy, big challenges to work together. In fact, the Dominican Republic and the CARICOM are actually from slightly different poles, and to make them even work together, that's important too. Pioneering agreement, economic partnership agreement, signed in 2008, which brings together the regional integration, brings together liberalization in an intelligent way of goods and services, takes on rules like public procurement, intellectual property, gets into economic governance, gets into areas of tourism which are focal points for them, and then is backed up by development support. So, for me, how do I measure the effectiveness is, does this development support, first of all, help them negotiate the agreement? And then secondly, having negotiated the agreement, does it help them implement it? Because it's the package that we're looking for. So you're asking, I think, a simple and direct question, which is, what's the effectiveness of aid for trade? It is aid for trade, therefore how much does trade increase? And it's a fair point. And it's one that I think we need to go into. I think we look at it more in building blocks. First of all, how much does it help them to actually negotiate? Secondly, having successfully negotiated something, how much does it help them be able to implement what needs to be done, so that the overall development strategy is answered, not just 1 percentage point or 2 percentage points or one can of bananas more than another. So I think at the moment we're more micro-focused, but I think in the long run we will have to go the route that you're asking.
I'm struck by something that you each said, which is that in fact enhancing know-how, training is a very important element of this. You tend to focus, perhaps journalists do, I know, and perhaps we do from time to time as well, on the big ticket items, infrastructure, productive capacity, but the training element is really essential, is it not, Mario?
Of course, the human capital for us and for many countries is the base in terms of making the difference. And I guess that one of the purpose of the Aid for Trade is to deliver. It's to go focus to the human capital basis, because at the very end, the human capital, our population, is the base for trade. And how you increase the trade capacity of many people which lack a lot of capacities to integrate to this global change. It's a very important thing in how the countries can, with international cooperation, with Aid for Trade, strengthen this capacity. Because in many countries, and especially in the middle countries, the less developed countries or the developing countries, lack a lot of resources to focus on the human capital. So one of the ways to deliver is to increase this capacity. And for me, the human capital is absolutely one of the basic to make a difference in terms of competitiveness, in terms of innovation. These are the things that are moving the train now. And the only way, if you want to go to that trend, it's to increase your capacity to make a difference in the human capital level.
Do you share that view, Peter?
Yeah, I would agree exactly with what Mario is saying, but I think I would add to that when you've got a trade agreement, you've got new challenges. If you are Chile, you've already had a lot of negotiations. You've already arrived at a point of integration into the world economy. Another agreement is not going to be a big deal. If you are not well integrated into the world economy, if you're working in small countries operating together with all the challenges that are there, you're facing both the change of your own place in the economy and the agreement that you have now struck with the EU or the United States or whoever it is. That means change, and that means that you've got to go back down to the people, as Mario is saying, and identify what they need to know in order to deal with the next challenges, the ones of this century as opposed to the ones of last century. Get an example. Obviously the Caribbean have been big suppliers of natural commodities to the EU, whether it's sugar or whether it's bananas or whatever. Now what they're doing is saying, well, we've got rum as well. We'd like to be able to now get to a point whereby we get value added on that. And we want to brand it better, so we need to understand intellectual property rights. We want to understand other aspects. So what we're doing is continually looking for ways to help people change and amend where they are and get into some part of the economy that helps produce added value.
Mario, your final thoughts?
Well, my final thought is that we are in a very interesting time of, in terms of trade, with big challenge for our countries. And either you are developed countries or developing countries, the challenges are huge. And I guess that we face a tremendous responsibility to deliver, not the aid for trade initiative, but the aid for trade initiative, to deliver several levels of our economy, of our sectors, and the responsibility to be serious in terms of getting oriented results and try to make the difference and try to promote the change and the transformations in our economies. The global trade is a very important part to create richness, to increase the incomes in the countries. But for that, we have to take that responsibility and take it serious, and I guess it's possible in terms of increase the global trade for our countries.
Peter Thompson, you have the last word.
Two things. First of all, I think the Aid for Trade initiative, way back in 2005, has helped us start to identify more accurately what is out there. And because it's increased the profile, and in our case, it's coupled with negotiations ongoing with developing countries, who in turn have been able to use the monitoring effect of Aid for Trade, enables us to bring a better profile to it and help mainstream it better into the overall development strategies. That's a very good thing. Now what we need to be able to do is, as you said right at the beginning, can we measure the effectiveness? And the second area that I would say, which is vitally important, can we connect up the new demands either created by agreements or the evolution of the global economy? Can we connect up those with the donors that are there? And that's actually more tricky than you think. It requires an awful lot of coordination and an awful lot of effort. And fortunately, I think there is the machinery getting in place. It's not quite there yet. So some work to do.
Peter Thompson, Mario Hernandez, thanks to you both, and thanks to you for watching WTO Forum.